Hello, is this thing on? Welcome to the first, what's this thing called? Lighting Happy Hour YouTube stream. I think everybody's getting in here, so I'm gonna hang out for a while. For all you guys re-watching the stream, I'm sorry. We'll see how this thing goes. Send a few tweets here. Hope you're all as excited as I am for this. Lighting Happy Hour is now live on YouTube. First time. Anybody here? If you're here, say something in the chat so I know I'm not alone in the world. Oh, hey, what up, Anthony? Anthony, is the H silent? No H, Anthony. Gotcha, man. All right, well, I guess I'll kick this thing off. For those who don't know me, my name is Luke, and I'm an MA2 programmer, designer, reseller of sorts. And we got some big news in our community here. Good old MA3, alive and kicking. We're looking at a June release, I think. And man, is she sexy, huh? Still a little early, so we're going to wait for a few more people to pop in. Where are you guys from? Tweet here. Hey, what's up, Justin? Good old Albany. You've been to Red Square before? Probably a million times. Yeah, that's correct. As far as I know, the 3 hardware will not be compatible with 2 software. Other than, clearly we all saw the video of MA2 running on the 3, which is going to be awesome. I'm sure you'll see a bunch of that at first as people are waiting for bug fixes to get figured out in 3. But I have a little theory about, you may have seen this here. Let's hop on over to MA's page. They're talking about running MA on Mac OS, which a bunch of us were really pumped about at first, but you see this little sentence right here. The Mac OS version can only be used as a pre-programming tool, backup, or as a designer display. Now, I have a theory on this that is not confirmed, but I'm thinking here, backup, what does that mean? Well, it could mean a couple of things. I suspect it means if you put a grandMA3 on PC station onto the MA network, it will be able to keep running that said network if one of the consoles goes down. Now, that may or may not mean it opens parameters. Sometimes if you join a session with like a full size, and then the full size leaves the session, you might still have access to all the parameters. That doesn't happen all the time. But if it is, like Anthony's saying here, a full tracking backup, that would mean that it could run the show without a console. So my theory is this, is that the Mac OS version of grandMA3 is not going to work with the command wing, and if they do, a fader wing, but that it will work with nodes. That's just totally a guess, and if that's true, any fellow LPC users out there like myself will be very happy to be able to build a rig on Mac OS. We'll see, though. I don't know if that is true. All right, this is lighting happy hour, right? So I got a bottle of Michter's bourbon here. Oh, can you see this, guys? So I'm going to be tipping one back and enjoying the good times on the internet. I invite you all to join me. Yes. We're probably going to be going for maybe an hour and a half if it gets exciting in here. But if you got any questions, go ahead and throw them in the chat. I'll see if I can help you out. What else we got here? I was telling the rep that I would be more than happy to buy a Series 3 node if they let me use the Series 2 wing. Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. I mean, and you also got to think about it from a marketing standpoint. Like, they want you to use the software, but they also make their money from you buying hardware. So if they let you use the 2 wings, why would you buy any 3 wings? So there's that, and there's also a serious amount of functionality that you're going to lose by staying on a 2 wing. I mean, you've got, let's see if we can zoom up here to these encoder knobs, and the fact that the new command wing has 10 motorized faders with LEDs in the background. Here it is, 2 running on 3. Let's see if I can get a picture here. I don't have good pictures of this stuff ready, but I think there's going to be a lot of stuff on here, like the way the command buttons are laid out. There are going to be things that don't really line up between the 2, and I think it would be more of a headache for them to support the 2 for a bunch of people who don't want to upgrade, rather than focusing the resources on 3, which is what I would prefer, honestly. Got quoted almost the exact same price for the 3. Yeah, the pricing is actually similar. It's under revision. I can't talk about pricing specifically, but the pricing is actually surprisingly close from 3 to 2. In fact, some of the prices were actually better on a few of the products, so we're all crossing our fingers to make sure that sticks with us. So yeah. I'm pretty excited about a couple things here. There were some questions about this MA3 extension. I do not think this will work with on PC. I think this is just like the extension for MA2, the big expensive wing that you can add onto a full size. I'm assuming this has motorized faders and the small screen that you see on the CRV version of the larger consoles. And from the initial pricing I saw, this is actually a lot more expensive than, say, a full command wing. Wait, what do you got, Anthony? Here's the funny thing. I got quoted. Oh, yeah, you said that. The pricing, there is no official pricing released to the public at this moment. So any pricing that you have seen is not official. And if you saw U.S. pricing and you're overseas, you probably have different pricing altogether. Oh, you can't see the whole chat. Oh, how about this? Is this better? This is my first stream, so please bear with me if anything is wacky. How about that? Mr. No Name, do we know the dimensions of any of the new products? I'm wondering if the footprint on the command wing changes at all. I would assume that the footprint on the command wing does change. It looks maybe like it's a little bit wider from this photo. I don't have any specific dimensions. Maybe some have been leaked, but the only technical documentation that exists at the current time is this grandMA3.com. There's not like a secret document that the reps have been released. I'm sure ACT has a bunch of extra stuff, but I don't have any. So, also go Hawks. Not the best year for us, but we're hanging in there. I bought a new hat today, by the way, so we'll drink to the Hawks. Will I be running shows from MA3 on its release date, or still running 2 for a while? Okay, so I think that the at least in my initial conversations with ACT, the consoles are going to be dropping probably around June. Don't quote me on that, but that's the soft date. But that nodes won't be out until till probably LDI or maybe later in the year for sure. And since I usually run my show with a bunch of MIDI devices and a node, I won't be using it right away for shows. Now that's just because of my situation. I totally expect to see MA3 guys running MA2 on their console at first till the bugs are worked out, and I'm definitely gonna, as soon as that download is available, I'll be all over that because we got a bunch of products, which I'll talk about later here on the stream, lined up for MA3. We're doing an LPC, we're doing a keyboard for sure, so that definitely is all happening. What else we got here? That's what I was afraid of. There are already a few Pelican cases that hold. Yeah, there are only a few, yeah. But, what are you going to do? Maybe it's smaller. Who knows? I mean, it has more faders and an extra encoder. I don't really see how that's going to take up less room, but it could be the same size. You can always build a road case, What else we got here? Also, what is the purpose of the CRV version? Now, as a concert guy, when I first saw this, I was kind of thinking the same. I'm like, that seems like a lot of money for, not even a full console. But you got to think that MA has a lot of different applications in the industry. As I was thinking about that like all week. Why do they why are they spending all this money on development for a smaller product? They probably just build the same thing and take the thing off. So it doesn't cost them much more or less money to develop this other one. And if you're in a theater, like I had a theater gig the other day on Friday with Motet, I'm up in the control booth of this big theater, and I couldn't see, like from where I was standing, I could barely see over my touchscreen monitors down to the floor. I had to tilt them at this super low angle in order to even see the band, let alone the audience. So if you think maybe you're in an installation where you've got 2 consoles, one is used for design and updating things like the programmer sitting there, and then you've got the designer or the operator running the show from the control room version, so you can see what queue you're in on each queue and what each playback is doing, but you don't necessarily need a ton of playbacks. I mean, a lot of shows in my world, lots of buttons both on the screen and on my APCs, but some shows have no buttons. They have just one go button the whole time, or it's time coded, and what do you need those screens for during playback? So what else we got? Drag for this, you use command as a fly disk. You're still going to be able to use it as a fly. I'm not, I'm going to promise you're going to be able to fit it on a carry-on, but I'm pretty sure they probably thought about that. So yeah. Yes, June confirmed by ACT. Yes, that's correct. Yeah, they won't. Yeah, there's not much more they can say. ACT told me the other day that Series 3 software has much more better launch. Well, I hoped. But, I don't suspect that 3 is going to be as big of an upgrade software-wise as 2 was from 1. You have to remember that 1 was very, outdated by the time that 2 got rolling. And I suspect that, they've kept on top of 3 so much that when they've kept on top of 2 so much that when they get to 3, they're really just maybe implementing some new conceptual, changes to the software, not so much a total overhaul. Now, that's totally guess, total speculation, a lot of speculation happening on the stream tonight, but I just don't see them. I mean, they've been on top of MA2 the whole time, so I don't really see a whole nother level coming there. Although the effects engine, if you guys read about this, what do we got here? Let's see if I can find it. Improved effects. Dynamic effects are no longer restricted to just two-step modulated parameters. These phaser things, this is going to be cool. Not everyone's going to need it, but you're going to be able to do some cool things that you weren't able to do before. So, what else we got in the chat? From what I hear, the console will probably only be... Oh, hey, Josh, what's up? Yeah, that would make sense if they did a 2-drop. But then again, who wants to buy a brand new console? I mean, like, at least give me a beta. If I'm going to spend thousands of dollars on a new MA3, like, I want to see it do some MA3 stuff, you know? So I'm sure that both will be on there. Maybe they're just going to try to get them out to get ahead of the sales cycle and then release the upgrade. That's possible. But, yeah, either way. Speculation City. Oh, hey, what's up, Ryan? Also, the new Pelican Air 1607 and the new Storm stuff should fit the command wing. Yeah. Yep. Do I know something about... I only know, like most, I only really know what's on this grandMA3 website. So I can't go into detail about the effects engine. I have a couple guesses, but I'm not going to speculate too much. I think that we're all going to enjoy it. I mean, you know, if you think about... I even run into this problem when I'm teaching effects. Let's say you're going to make a pan tilt effect in MA2. Well, you can add as many lines as you want, but you're limited to 2 parameters. So I could say up and down, or left and right, or from the drummer into the singer, you know, that kind of thing. But what if you wanted a third one in there? What if you wanted it to modulate from like different places? Or what if you wanted to go to the drummer and then wiggle around and then come back? You know, you have to make these like custom waveforms to do things like that, and you lose references to presets when you get real crazy with it. So I think they're just going to have basically maybe like if we're 2D now, it's going to be 3D, which will give you a lot of options. That's a guess. Once again, don't hold me to it. I'm probably going to get an email in a week. Oh, you're wrong about the effects engine, Luke, you stupid guy. Oh, new podcasts. Great question. For those of you who don't know, I host a podcast called The Light Side. Here, let's go take a look here. Light Side Podcast. Basically, I sit down with a bunch of different designers, operators, programmers. Most of these guys have been guys that I've known up to this point or gotten to know through the podcast. I do have some in the works. I don't want to confirm or deny anything here on the air until they're actually all locked in and recorded. But I got some cool ones coming up. My plan for 2018 is to get a little more outside the box. I'm hoping, and if anybody out there knows anybody who might fit any of these descriptions, I'm hoping to get someone from Cirque du Soleil, somebody from Broadway, especially the guy from Hamilton, because I'm kind of big on Hamilton right now, guys. What else? The Voice. I would love to get one of the designers or an operator or the whole team from someone like The Voice, or you know, one of those huge shows where you watch and they come out and sing and there's like crazy lighting that I'm even blown away by. I would love to get one of those guys on the show. There's a couple other big name LDs that I'm shooting for. We'll see if those happen. But yeah, I'm happy to take suggestions. Anybody got anybody they want to see on the light side? Let me know. Kevin Adams. I don't know that name. The Art of Light in the Netherlands. Yeah, man, I've seen some of that. It's not trance. What do they call it? Kind of like hardcore stuff. Crazy video beam rigs. I dig it. Yeah, Gabe Fabroni. I know Gabe. I think we almost recorded an episode, but we ran out of time. I'm hoping we will record in the next year. Hard Style, yes, thank you. That's exactly what it's called. Yeah. No, I haven't talked to Gabe recently, so you know, that's not confirmed or anything. But I've had both Michael Smalley and Greg Ellis on, and they both work with Gabe a lot. Another guy I want to have on is Corey Fitzgerald, who I don't know personally, but I hear great things about. So, hoping to see if I can get him on the show. Yeah. Hard Style, yeah, man. I grew up in... Hey, Ty Guy, what's up? Yeah, upvote for Gabe for sure. The Broadway thing is, I don't know anything about it, so it's almost like I need someone. The first guy on Broadway, I need to like. He needs to understand that I know a lot about lighting and nothing about Broadway lighting because, I can mess with color temperature and angles on some singers, but I was looking at some of the plots for these Broadway shows in PLSN, and it's a whole world I know nothing about. You're talking about like 200 instruments up there, cue to cue, the whole. It's just totally different from what I do. Okay, Jules Fisher, another Broadway LD who worked for Bowie. They're Rolling Stones. Okay, yeah, I don't know these names. So, Andre Beeksman, Art of Light, nicest guy in the world. Okay, cool. Yeah, if you guys if you know any of these guys and you think they might want to do the show, by all means, please send me their contact info. What else we got to talk about? Oh, I want to give a shout out to Christian Jackson. Many of you guys probably know who he is because we're all on YouTube right now. But he plugged my page when we first dropped MA3 pricing prematurely on accident. Sorry, MA. But big thanks to you, Christian. I think we're going to do a podcast episode. That's in the works, the discussion about that. If you guys aren't familiar with Christian Jackson, check out the description of this video. There is a link to his work, and he's got the color picker layout thing, which I'm sure you all have seen. If not, you probably should have. So check that out. So big shout out to Christian Jackson. What else? We talked about MA3, talked about Mac OS. Yeah, I think it's happening. I can't confirm it yet, but I'd be surprised if it didn't happen. Oh, someone asked about another Kuroda episode. That's probably not going to happen anytime in the near future, just because that was the last episode I did, and I'm not trying to do too many repeats, at least in the near term. Although the New Year's show for Fish was pretty sweet. For those of you who didn't see it, they had all these wristbands that were controlled from the MA. Good stuff. Any LD commentary videos planned? Oh, yes. Okay, this is another series I have in the works. Let me see if I can show it to you. The first one is out on my channel. The second one is coming. It's already out on Umphrey's channel, but it will be coming on my channel as well. It's called Lighting Director's Commentary. Yeah, here's the first one. So a good buddy of mine, MK Devo, we do this series where he'll come in and he'll film an LD top down, and you picture-in-picture the front of house camera so you can see what they're doing. And then later I'll come in and meet up with that LD. Of course, this one is me, so it's self-serving and obvious. But I'll come in later and talk through what's happening in their mind. And here's the waffle one. And it's awesome series. I have to admit, it's totally, once again, self-serving in that I basically get to do what I wish I could have done 5 years ago, and is ask all these guys what they're thinking when they run the show. So I've got a couple feelers out for that. It's a little bit more work than just recording a podcast episode. You have to get permission from the artist, and there's licensing with the music involved, and there's a little more, not, I want to say politics because that makes it sound controversial, but there's a little bit more to it than just, hey, do you want to talk to me about lights? So, but I have a couple guys who are interested. I'm hoping to get everybody I can. The other thing too about this is that this only really works for a certain kind of LD. If you go see a Q2Q show, this angle would be really boring because the guy is just sitting there hitting one button over and over and over. Or if it's time coded, none at all. Instead, for a show like that, what I'd like to do is maybe make this a little smaller, make the video of the of the front of house camera bigger, and then, excuse me, and then talk to them about their design and the direction when they were writing the show. So Yeah, what else we got? Maybe after Watkins. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, it depends on how many episodes I do. If I do 20 between now and then, sure. Yeah, I love talking to those guys. It was a dream come true. So the wristbands, yes, the wristbands were controlled. I can't actually confirm that they were controlled from the MA, but I'm 99% certain, and I know the brand of the wristband. If you hold on a second. Xylo bands is what they used. So, what is my next tour gig? I was out last weekend with Motet, and I'm doing a bunch more shows with them coming up. I'm not exactly sure how many, but we'll just say a bunch for the time being. But I don't know what the future holds, so that's exciting. I love those guys, though. We had a great time this weekend. Okay, while we're hanging out here, have you considered doing any programming? I've thought about it up till maybe this moment. I really haven't had a ton of time to do tutorial videos. There are already a lot out there. Like I said, Christian Jackson has a bunch. There's, console training guys have a bunch. I thought about doing some. We'll see. Now that I got my little streaming stuff set up, I have MA here going here if you guys have actual MA questions. I've thought about it. We'll see. It's kind of one of those things where if I've got the time and I've got something I think I contribute that's new, then yeah, I'll do a video or two. One thing I've considered doing is building and I think Jeff Waffle and I have talked about this, is building a rig either somewhere in reality or just virtually, and then sending it around to a couple different LDs and then having them write their show for the same rig to see how they do it differently. Now, that's just a concept. We'll see if that ever comes to fruition, but I do a lot of training, so it's kind of like double duty for me to make a video for everything and teach it in person. So that's where I'm at with that. What else? Okay, so I guess as far as MA3 is concerned, I'll talk a little bit about what we're planning. Let's see here. So how many LPC users do we have in the chat? I saw Ryan in there. We're definitely going to be doing a MA3 LPC, and I'm a little excited about it because the fact that they've got these encoders now, there's a lot of MIDI devices out there that have knobs that don't map really well, and I really hate putting something on a software package that we're selling that can't be used in MA. So the fact that there are encoders now, assuming we can MIDI map them, which if we can't MIDI map them, then what's the point? But if we can, I'm planning to find some new controllers, maybe that Behringer controller with motorized faders. We'll see what comes out at NAMM this year. Lots of options, but I'm hoping to do a full map of that. On top of that, outside of MA3, I think I'm going to be building a LPC Mini for fly dates. And basically, we're going to take two of these APC Minis, or three of these APC Minis, these guys here, put three of those in a road case, put one of my command keyboards underneath it, and or maybe next to it. We'll see how it works out. The idea is that you can fly with that thing. Now, the faders on this are not anywhere close to the faders on an APC 20, but as many of us know, the APC 20s are discontinued and they're becoming harder and harder to find, especially as this small army of MIDI MA users wears them out, like myself. But yeah, so we're gonna do that's gonna be an MA2 product for sure. There's no knobs, so we'll see how well it sells. Maybe we'll do it for MA3. Also, we've got the APC 40 Mark II. I use this software package out on Thievery Corporation. It's going to be coming online hopefully in the next month. I need to beta test it and write documentation. But basically, the LED feedback code works on works in RGB. So this guy here, you can see it's RGB backlit. Well, so I had an awesome time with it because you can just color all your buttons to match, and then you don't have to look at the screen. They're just, oh, it's really cool. I've still got the long-term goal of making my own MIDI controller. Although I went down the rabbit hole the other day, like looking at, Teensy and Arduino and all this stuff. And then the next day they dropped MA3, and I didn't even know it was coming. So I'm a little like, man, I don't know if I want to spend a bunch of time and energy making this, hardware product just to have it be obsolete. So we'll see. It's a long-term dream of mine, but I know very little about the actual machine code that you need to write to. So, I mean, I could do it in Arduino, but doing it for real like Akai does, I kind of need a third party's help. What else we got? Okay, so I don't know if I talked about the command keyboard. My wife and I make these things. They sell all over the world. I can't believe the places that we ship them to. They've gone to Brazil. They've gone to Korea, South Korea. I guess there's a need there that MA has not met. Basically, all it is a command keyboard. I mean, we're not stepping on MA's toes here. You have to buy MA hardware to use these things. Please support MA. But on top of that, this is just a keyboard, just like your keyboard shortcuts, but on a like point of sale keyboard. And you're welcome to do this yourself, or you can pay us to do it. And we're going to be making one of these for MA3 as well. It'll have the 16x keys with the lower MA key. I don't know if we're going to match the full size layout or the command wing layout. I'm going to guess the full size because I think a lot of guys will use this in conjunction with a command wing. So there's not much point in having both, or maybe not though. Who knows? But yeah, we are going to be working on that. I'm working on the sketches now just to figure out where all the keys are going to fit, but that should be cool. So stay tuned for that. What else we got? Any questions, throw them up in the chat. Do I plan to release LPC packages after MA? Yeah, well, I just talked about that for a bunch, so yes. I'm not going to turn off the MA2 stuff. I think the MA2 has a long life left. I don't think that it's going away. I think that there are a bunch of people who are freaked out, but that shouldn't be because I had a call today with a guy who, it's like a TV thing, and they have a bunch of MA guys and a bunch of MA consoles. They're not going to just flip the switch in June. There's going to be definitely a transition period. And I think to some extent, MA2 will be remaining the standard for a while. Chief Mersh Keefe. Hit me up, man. We want more LPC users all the time. Also, Jacob, make your own, man. That's what I did. I fully support people making their own. Also, if you want to do one of mine and you don't want to spend the time writing the code, by all means, I sell just the software too. Not to be too salesy, but if you want to build it yourself, I fully encourage that. Kyle's Zero. I love my APC Mini, except I wish it had. Yeah, it'd be nice if it had full RGB. I admit that would be nice. But, that's how they keep it so cheap. Is cheaper hardware. So, do you think you'll still be making MA2? Yes. Okay, I'm sorry. I just answered that question as well. A little behind here on the chat. Yes, it is a Cherry POS keyboard, which you are welcome to buy on your own. But if you don't want to do the work, we'll do it for you, like I just said. Would love to know how to set up a cue stack that allows me to hot swap effect. Oh, Jacob, I think I saw your thing on Facebook. Okay, so I have a little bit of a rant about this. There's a lot of guys out there who have these files, especially in the EDM world, where you can basically hot build anything. You want to build a chase with these two colors on these 8 lights that wings in 3s. Go for it. You got buttons for all that on a layout view. That makes perfect sense for people who want that, but I don't operate that way. I don't think about lighting that way. For me, I could just as easily open up the effects editor and retake selection and add the new lights that I want. So instead what I do, and I'll actually show you here in my show file, this is my main Dopapod show file, which I move forward for everything. Let me show you the main screen here in the middle. So this is my main APC screen. Everything down here is on faders, and this is the main APC, and this is just on the touch screen. So all this stuff here is kind of what you're talking about, effects and stuff. I have very specific like wants and needs from them. I don't ever need to run a movement effect with 3 wings. And if I did, I would do it during my programming time or during my previs. So I don't have a system for a huge stack where or command line where I can, rebuild any effect with any number of parameters. I just do it beforehand. And I was thinking about your question before I started the stream. I was reading it online, and I was thinking of an analogy of like a guitar player. Like, just because you know how to play in Super Locrian and you can play in every inversion of it, that doesn't mean that you're going to need to do that on the gig to make the best music. And I think that analogy really applies to what we're doing here in lighting. Like, if I'm lighting a show, if I'm and we're assuming we're punting a show here like EDM or jam band. If I'm punting a show live, I have looks that I know I want, and they all have certain timing, and I don't necessarily need them to change on the level that you're talking about. If you want to be able to program that, and by all means, I'm not saying don't program that. I'm just telling you about my operating style. There are a ton of tutorials on YouTube and on the web on how to set up stuff like that. A lot of it has to do with either building a cue stack with maybe 10 different effects in it, and then using command line, when you click one button, it updates all your effects to run the 5th cue instead of the 3rd or something like that. Let me know if that answered your question at all. Yeah, Dr. Incredible. I still see MA1s out there almost. Yeah, exactly. You're going to see, and MA2 is a much, much better product than MA1. MA1 is their first real console. MA2 is Linux. I'm pretty sure MA1 is running on Windows, but MA2, like the networking and the engineering backbone which it runs on, could have lasted for another 10 years. That's why I was so surprised to see MA3. I think the hardware can hang. But I think things like wanting to mix the visualizer into the console and kind of step up some of the hardware, like the touch screens, it's a good move. I just think they're ahead of the curve, which, big surprise, that's what MA does. So, Kyle Zero, yeah, the price is really good on it compared to the APC4. Yes, it is. But then again, you don't get knobs, and the faders aren't as good, and you don't get RGB backlights. Now, I'll also tell you, though, the APC40 Mark II, you only get RGB in that grid. This grid. This stuff here, these are orange. It's kind of magenta on this screenshot, but everything else on the device is not RGB. So in my code for it, only this stuff has RGB, feedback, of course. So what else we got? Wait, you're saying that the ultimate whiz-bang punt file that does everything might not make you a good lighting artist? Weird. Yeah, man, I mean, like I said, to each their own. And I'm not coming from a world where I'm walking into like Coachella or some of these huge hardstyle rigs that have like, if you do a two-wing movement effect on 800 lights, that might not be enough. But even then, if I got tapped in to go do one of those huge rigs, I would be doing it in previs or during my programming. And I'd want the same buttons that I always use because I punt the same way every time. I just would make sure that the button, when I press it, does something that looks good everywhere. And this goes back to that old mantra, like less is more. I really believe that, both from a visual negative space standpoint and from a programming standpoint. Like, no one cares how sophisticated your show file is. Maybe people on the internet or other LDs that you're like showing your console for, but A, those aren't your clients, the people who hired you to make their show look good, and B, those aren't your, I guess we'll call them fans, but the people who are enjoying your work in the audience. They don't care about that, how sophisticated your program is. They care how good the show fits the music, really, I think. Best way to contact me for training or setting up an LPC, hit me up, Gmail, LukeStrattonDesigns.com. Pretty straightforward. Oh, no, LukeStrattonDesigns@gmail.com. There you go. You can also get through me through the website, which is linked in the comments. Totally feel you. I think I'm trying to build some degree of flexibility into my show file since I'm still starting out, so I want to have those methods. Yeah, I would encourage you to know how to change them quickly as a programmer. Because like I said, like we're all saying here, having a big, crazy, awesome pump file is awesome and can be very useful, But I know guys personally who have these files who've been built by other programmers, and they don't know how to, like, they couldn't write the effects themselves. And that blows my mind. Like, that means A, you couldn't get hired by someone to do that work. And B, if there's a problem, you can't fix it. And like I said, it's more like practicing your licks. Like, if you can get that one effect and copy it 5 times and make all 5 of them look great, that's going to be way more useful for you than be like, oh, do I want 4 or do I want 6? Oh, no, I ran 6 and it doesn't look good. No, that's just not how I roll. Now, I'll say the inverse is true for color, because that can be like, oh, well, let's use the music analogy again. I know this scale, but I want to play it in G instead of B flat. That could maybe be a color analogy. So you can use those techniques to change effects quickly using macros and whatnot, where you're updating colors. I would say that'd be a big exception. Let's see here. Just because you don't have every light that does everything doesn't mean yes, of course. Your lights don't have to do everything all the time. I totally agree. My favorite fixture from 2017. 2017 was not a big rent new fixtures year for me. I used my Roby points and my GLP X4Ss a lot, but I'd say that the fixture I saw that probably impressed me the most was the Martin Axiom. That may even come out at the end of 16. I can't tell, but just the versatility to be able to go full color mixing, spot, wash, beam. I like it. I'm excited that lights are moving in that direction. Also, I think the magic panel is pretty cool. I think that's what it's called. Let's see if I can look it up. It's like a LED panel on one side and a lighting fixture on the other. I just think that's that kind of stuff. Like, I wouldn't own that fixture. Let's see here. I don't know if this is it or not. No, it's called the... Maybe. Anybody know in the chat? Alien? No, that's not it. And it looks like this, but on the back it has video. And I just think that's I would love to get my hands on a fixture like that, like, oh, we got content on this side. Dream panel, there it is, yeah. See, you guys are the best. Dream panel. Oh, look over here, a whole category I didn't even see. Let's try this. Dream panel, HD. I didn't really even see these in a rig this year. That's the box. Sorry, everybody. Sorry about Luke. Yeah, nope. God damn it. Well, that would make sense if it was a twin, right? Yeah, there. See, so that's a video panel here and a LED fixture. I think that's really, really cool. So that the Axiom, I like being able to use things a lot of different ways. But yeah, I don't think that this year was quite as mind-blowing for me as a couple years ago. Like when the BI was dropping and the point was a little bit after that. Those lights were like a whole new generation. You're like, that really, amped it up. What fixtures did you use in your most recent tour? Could we get back to that for a second? Yeah. So if you're talking about Dopapod tour, we own Roby points and a GLP X4S, and X4S is one of my favorite lights. It looks like kind of like a 101, but it's got really tight beam angle and it's got a white cell. So it's red, green, blue, and white. So you can really get some cool colors in there. I get like a slime green, which is green and white, or a color I call wizard, which is blue and white. These are great lights. I use them. I would put them in any rig at this point. They also have a bigger brother and a way bigger brother. The X4 has an extra ring around it, and then the X4L, I think there might even be another one on top of that now. Great fixtures. Okay, so the pointy conversation, I've heard that it's an American versus European thing, which I've talked to Roby guys, and some of them say point, and some of them say pointy. It just kind of depends. I prefer to say point because I think pointy sounds cute. It's the same reason I call it grandMA instead of grandma. But if you like cute, go for it. Go for pointy. They're both. It's unlike Moog and Moog. They're both correct depending on who you talk to. But okay, then back to the rig. That's my normal Dobopod touring rig, and then on the Thievery Corporation tour rig, which maybe you're asking about that, we had Mac 101s, Martin Vipers, and Elation FLX, which is a hybrid fixture. Oh yeah, you were talking about Dobopod tour. Well, there you go. Yeah, that's the rig we've had for a couple years, and I love it. Only thing I'd change is I wish I had maybe a third kind of light. Like a color mixing. An Axiom would be great, or maybe a Viper. Well, thank you, Mike. I appreciate the color comment. I should look into Eric Prid's production team for your podcast. Oh, okay. Yeah, man, shoot me an email if you know those guys. It helps to have an introduction, so I'm not just a random guy on the internet. Do the X4S have the annoying zoom noise like the X4? They do have a noise. Usually I work for rock bands, so I'm not really worried about the noise. And I'm a big fan of like aliens and science fiction video games, so sometimes I'm like I kind of dig the noise. My full review of the FLX. Well, I think the FLX versus the Axiom is a no-brainer because they're two totally different levels of fixture, in that the Axiom can color mix on its full range. The big complaint I have that everybody has with the FLX is that when you're in beam mode, you can't use the CMY flags. So if you build all your color palettes and then you put it in the beam mode, the color palettes that are made using color mixing won't work. Luckily for me, a lot of my stuff I've built with Color Wheel. I'm used to that. So using them, that didn't really affect me. And they are so much brighter in beam mode than a Viper that I usually just left them in spot mode and would zoom them in. So there's that. That being said, though, we had them out on Thievery. I kind of went with them for budget reasons. And I was like, all right, I'm going to use this fixture. I've had Elation fixtures throughout my career. I was a little apprehensive, and I really was proven wrong through the tour. And the fact that the Vipers, we had problems with them all the time. Not one of my FLXs messed up the entire tour. That's saying a lot. I mean, it was a month-long tour, but that's saying a lot. I would change some of the gobos out, but I can't think of a fixture on the market where I wouldn't say that about. So, yeah. Well, what else we got? I guess the new Mythos. Okay, so I haven't used the new one, but I took the first ones out with Thievery 2 years ago, I think. Same problem with the color mixing, and I had a bunch of problems with those. So I'm glad to see it. I love Claypaky. I love their lights. The Alpha Spot QW0800 is my favorite fixture, probably of all time. So I'm happy to hear that the new Mythos might be better. Chauvet Mark 1 Hybrid versus Axiom. I haven't used the Mark 1 Hybrid. I've used a lot of the Rogue stuff. And I got to say, both Elation and especially Chauvet have come so far in the past couple of years. I've really been impressed. I used to be like, oh, it's got to be Martin or Claypaky, and then Roby with the point kind of put themselves in that. And the way they make their profiles and whatnot, I wouldn't put Chauvet in that AAA class yet, but for the budget, I mean, if anybody calls me from a venue or a low level, 500 cap or smaller touring band, and they want to buy lights, I tell them Chauvet, because those guys have come so far even from a brightness standpoint that, the minutia of a light, an LD like me can tell when we're programming with them, but most people are never going to know the difference. We did a whole tour with Pigeons playing ping pong where we used Manny's R1s, I believe. They might have been R2s, but correct me if you're here, Manny, let me know. And, they don't behave like the points. They don't move as fast. The optics aren't as good. But they in a photo you can't tell the difference as long as you've focused your gobos well. And Manny put a bunch of his own gobos in those lights, so we had like a cone and we had like sonar from a Viper. They looked great, and so you get what you pay for, but at the same time, like those guys, their light rig, which looks it's like the same number of lights as Dobopods. It looks about the same for photos. It looks pretty much the same for a fraction of the price. Now, believe me, you can tell the difference when you're programming, you're writing effects and that kind of thing, and with the optics. But they've come a long way. That's what I'm saying. What else we got here? Mark Nath does Eric Prydz. Ty, I don't know either of those names, so I don't know if one of those. I'm assuming Mark is the designer and Eric Prydz is an artist. I'm sorry, Eric, if I should know who you are. You used the dozens of the hybrids, I'm assuming. Dr. Incredible did not like the Mark 1 hybrid, had high hopes, but they just don't look that great. Like I said, you get what you pay for. I'm just saying they've come a long way, and that's what I like to see, is companies coming a long way with their products. Did you do Thievery 2 years ago at what the... No, that was probably Max Blackman. That's normally Max's gig. Hi, Max, if you're listening. Other Chauvet Pro gear is good quality. Yeah. New Chauvet Pro... I don't know this fixture. Pro McPrices is dope AF. It's bright AF dot. Yeah, I like the dot thing. You got to have a lot of them, though. R1 spots? Yeah, I think so. Is there a video of actual pigeons? Do you mean like Pigeons the animal playing the table sport ping pong? Because there's plenty of video of the band and Manny running lights for him, who's a great LD, by the way. Do you tour with any generic fixtures? No. And I want to rant about this. I think about this on the podcast sometimes. Do not buy generic fixtures. Do not buy Chinese knockoffs. I don't have any problem with made in China. Your iPhone's made in China. Most of these lights are probably made in China. But you go to like LDI and you see this row of these Chinese knockoffs, which are just like, they're just stealing. And there's no repercussion. This is terrible for the industry, and it's terrible for your career. It always seems like, oh, I want to do that quick grab. I want to get a big light rig with a bunch of lights. That is not the case. These lights, they don't have support. They don't last as long, and they take away operating dollars from the companies who are putting in the design and engineering time. And as an engineer, I am very adamant in supporting other engineers. I think that's it's really easy to be like, oh, they're big corporations, we don't want to give them money. But this fixture's half the price. Well, you know how many rigs I've rolled onto where they had Chinese knockoff Sharpies and they don't work right, or the profiles don't work right, and they don't look as good. The color wheels are off. It's just, please don't support those kinds of light companies. The animal playing sport. Oh, yeah, I don't have video of that. It may exist. It's possible. What about LED tape and decoders? I have zero experience with either. Maybe someone in the chat can chime in on that. BF Skinner, pigeons play ping pong in an experiment. Oh, let's check this out. Let's see if we can find this. Oh, here you go, guys. There you have it. Pigeons playing ping pong. What else we got here? Yeah, I'm looking at it on YouTube. My go-to with generics is that you can use them off until you make enough to buy brand name gear. And at that point, yeah. And, I'm not going to, if I roll into a rig at a festival and they got a bunch of Chinese lights, I'm not going to not use them. Although I will say in the past year or two, I've really gotten maybe better, is that what you could say, about just using my tour rig, being like, no, you know what? If I add those lights in, it won't look as good. Or my programming won't pop off as well. Like, less is more, sometimes doing that, making that decision to not clone onto some cheap fixtures can really pay off, especially when their house rig is either blocked by your rig or it's off a little bit, or maybe it's just set up in a way where it doesn't geometrically, gel with your rig. So My go-to with generics is that I think I said that. It's 4 a.m. Thanks for a great happy hour. I need to get some sleep. Hey, man, thank you for tuning in. Oh, yeah. Chinese Sharpies are the bane. Yes. No name. If you start off with generic knockoff crap, that becomes your reputation. Yeah, maybe not. I wouldn't just don't give those guys money. That's really what I'm saying. Don't support that industry because in the long run it hurts us all. In a much more direct way than like not voting does. Like if you were working for a production company and they're buying $10,000 or $20,000 worth of lights from a Chinese manufacturer knockoff, that sale could be the difference between them staying in business or not. I mean, nobody thinks about it that way, but every business has a sale like that where if they hadn't made it, they would go under. Like that happens. So by being part of that, you're continuing that. What else? Oh yeah, Elation makes a lot of great products. What do you know about? Oh yeah, I think I'm getting a little behind here in the chat. Oh my god, Shoppies. Have you gotten your hands on or even seen anybody use the Roby? Yes, I used them at Aura up in Portland on Thievery Tour. That rig was so many different lights that I really and there were just 4 of them pretty high up in the room, so I really didn't get to dig in and put them through the paces, I guess. They're Roby. I'm sure they're great. Especially any of their newer products are amazing. There's my dog. Not every product can take off, and it's really just about making the right product at the right time. I mean, and getting it right, you have to nail it. Like the Point nailed it. The Mythos did not nail it. The Sharpie nailed it. We wouldn't be talking about Claypaky at all today if they hadn't have nailed that Sharpie. I mean, maybe not, but that light gave them so much business, so much capital to develop future products with. Cloning process. Oh yeah, let's talk more about the console. I thought there would be more console questions, but I'm happy to just talk about gear. Okay, what can I show you about cloning? Let me show you one thing here I got. This is a layout view I have called Everything. And this is pretty much everything good that I've acquired over the past couple years. You can see these are all points. So this right here is my normal configuration. This is my festival configuration where I put 4 on the truss on the deck and then 4 on road cases. And then this is from New Year's a couple years ago, and when we did the Floyd tribute, the circle truss. So if I ever walk into a rig that has beams on a circle truss, I can clone the positions from here, and it will work pretty well. I've done it. It works pretty well. Here are some Mythos, some Sharpies, some Platinum beams, some Axioms. Those are all my beam type fixtures. And spots. I got R1s, R2s. These are the QWOs I was talking about before. MAC3s, both hung and on the deck. Vipers hung and on the deck. Mac 700s hung and on the deck. And Intimidator 350s. And then these are my wash. So I don't keep wash fixtures in my show file anymore because I always just clone them from my X4s. That way, when I'm adding new effects and writing new looks and stuff, I don't have to come in here and grab them. Like, that's the thing about making a clone file. If you write a new, like, for example, I write a new look, I need to include all these lights or be prepared to clone again from other lights when this doesn't work in the clone. So here's hung, deck, X4s in a circle, and these are my downstage lights. And if you look at this for this file is set up for Dopapod. Wonder if I can show you these. They're not active right now. Maybe this one. Oh yeah, these all have a world filter, so you're not going to see them. But basically, the idea here is that if I only have 4, I would use this one, this one, this one, and this one for the 4 guys in the band. And then this one, this one, this one, and this one actually have a little bit of a color temperature difference. And they may not actually be in a row like this. Like if I get to a conventional Parkan rig, I'll focus them the one way over here on one guy and the other one on that same guy. So I get as much color shadow on their faces as possible. And when I clone, if I'm cloning from 8 lights, this is a band with 4 people, then you're going to have a little bit of magenta here and a little bit of cyan here, or a little cool white and a little white. This is like a classic theater technique. So yeah. So I keep all the lights in there like that. And then when I come to do the clone, usually I just start with a basic, like this, cloning, and I'll grab the lights I'm coming from. So let's maybe open up another page here, and let's say we're cloning from, we'll go everything. Let's say I want to clone my Sharpies to my Mythos. So I'll go here, take the Sharpies here, and then I'll go Mythos, and I'll take them here, and I'll say prepare, and I always turn off groups, and I always turn off layouts, because I'll build a layout view for every rig. And then I'll clone it, and that's maybe pretty much done. Now, often what I'll do is I'll be like, oh, well, I had Sharpies in my file, and I need to clone to Sharpies, but the Sharpies at this rig are on the deck. So I might clone this way with these lights, and then I'll come back in and do a second pass, but only clone the position presets. So I might turn all this off and then just say chosen presets, position. And that can be really helpful. You know, like if your color needs to clone one way, but your positions need to clone some other way. If there's a specific topic in cloning that I can elaborate on, just put it in the chat and I'll dig in more. Yeah, the Aura rig's cool. It's a lot of, like I said, I wouldn't have put that many different fixtures in from a cloning touring LD operation. It's just so, like, I programmed all day, and we didn't even bring in our rig. We just had a ground, like 6 Vipers on the deck, and I programmed all day because they have spiders, they had spikies, they had points, they had mini points, and they had Vivas. That's just too many fixture types for, you know, each one of those operates different on a gobo level and on a color level, and it was just a lot of work. It looked cool though. Auras look like it has a pretty cool ring. Oh, I'm sorry. I just read that one. Aura looks like it has a cool ring, yes. Tell us more about ways to clone. Yeah. Also, can you show us an example of getting today's rig? Let's say there are 12 axioms on a truss. How would you clone the update effects, make them look good? Okay, well, I kind of did that. So I guess what we would do... Yeah, I guess I kind of already did that. I guess let me know if there are any more questions about that. How are we doing here? We're coming up on an hour. Yeah. Go a little bit longer here. Okay, well, for everybody listening, if you don't know about the Discord channel, check it out. I don't know if can I show you guys? I think I can. So you can go to discord.lukestratton. Use both hands. And this is just a link to the chat. It's not actually on my server. This is a platform that was developed for gamers, especially video gamers, to chat in an app rather than, you know, doing their own, like, inside the game. And it works great, but it also really is great for communities like lighting design. So I don't think I have this. Maybe let me see if I can log in real quick. Hold on. They have pretty stupid verification processes. Yeah, here you go. Oh, nope. Wrong one. Well, you guys will check it out for yourself. Basically, it's a chat client. And I've got a bunch of groups set up there. There's an MA3 group, an MA2 group, Hog, Camsys, all that stuff. So you have questions or you're looking to pick other LD's brains, check it out. I've got some other questions here from online. I don't know, Ryan, if you're listening, but oh yeah, just go to discord.lukestrattondesigns.com. Here, maybe I'll make a thing here. I'll put a link in the video description too. There. What was I saying? Oh yeah, Ryan Gavin has a question. I don't know if he's listening or not, but I'll put it in here so I can reference it later. As a small band, we do not have an LD. We have some lighting gear, and we were trying to come up with effective ways to automate a light show that is more interesting than the default sound reactive features on our fixtures. Any tips for big impact things that we can automate? Well, Ryan, I'm going to give you an answer that you're probably not going to like, and it's that if you don't have the budget to hire a professional to help you with your lighting, you probably have more steps involved in your career that aren't concerned with lighting. And I say this from direct experience. Audio is very important. Songwriting is very important. Now, I mean, if you're a DJ and you can't, then maybe you're like a duo. Well, even then, if you're a duo, you should have the money to hire somebody. Like, if you're making enough money to put people in the club or in the venue, then hopefully you have someone to hire enough money to hire someone to do lighting. I don't think of it like something that can be just done like you're describing. If you needed a bass player and you couldn't afford one, you wouldn't. I mean, maybe you would just make tracks, but then you wouldn't be a live band. Ben, what is up, my man? So as a band without the budget for a lighting designer, I would say get a bigger budget. And by that I mean get bigger, get better songs, do all the things that every band has to do before you can afford a light. Now, I mean, having a light show will give you a jump. And if you really wanted to do it, I've helped people do that, where you can do like a foot controller with different scenes, or you could queue stack your shows. But to be honest, how much energy, who's going to set that up? Who's going to set the gear up? Who's going to program it? Maybe those guys should be spending more time writing music. That's just my personal opinion. So, okay, Ben says, on the cloning topic, when I walk into a venue, I usually clone in the house rig, make a new layout, and then update all my effects with newly selected groups. Do you use a macro to update effects with the new groups that include the house rig? Right now, I'm just taking selection. Yes. Okay, so I did that for a long time, probably years, exactly as you describe it. Here's my actual method now. Number one, I patch the rig. If they've got an MA file, I'll do a partial show read, because that'll bring over layouts and stage view if you want, and even positions if you are crunched. Like, for example, Electric Forest a few years ago, I PSR'd in the huge stage that we were on, and I just took the position for all they have these 301s that had to light up these giant lanterns. So yeah, why waste my time making a position that I have to use? So I just brought that in. But so number one is I patch the rig. Let's say it's just a club. Patch the rig. Number two, before I do the clone, and I learned this from Michael Smalley during that podcast episode, make the layout view right away. And it doesn't have to match the rig. It doesn't have to look like it. It could be as simple as, let's see if I have the last one in here. I have a layout view called Today. Yeah, there's nothing in here right now, but let's just use the Thievery Tour as an example. I might load it in like this, or it might just be in simple lines. And then if you're on a full size, it's really easy. Just screen 4, you put your rig. Screen 3, you put their rig. Screen 2, you put the cloning thing. Pick what you want, take selection. Pick what you want, take selection, clone. Just do that for everything. It's really easy to just pick and choose. You don't have to think about fixture numbers. You can just go from spot to spot. Then when I'm done, if I weren't using any macros, I would go through and I would update everything, but especially positions, and then take selection on all my effects. What I've done instead, now that I do this, I use the same effects every night, and I've done it for so long that I wrote a couple of macros. And some of these EDM guys have like whole files built off this like Lua macro, like, hey, here's my lights, here's my groups, rebuild everything. I don't have to rebuild everything, but I do rebuild a bunch of things. So let me see if I can show you. Here's my update effects. So you can see it gives me a little warning. It goes into a world, clears all, and it restores all those effects. It's my first 20 effects. Or no, it's my first effect, the first 20 lines, I guess. Yeah, so I build like 4 groups, and then you just run the macro every day, and boom, it's done. Now I also have one for wipes now, which will basically, I go in here, presets, and these are little macros that just rebuild each of my wipe presets. So I just pick a group and then click that button and it rebuilds it. I had a macro that did everything for me, but it wasn't firing perfect every time, and I didn't feel like taking the time. So basically what I do is I grab group 100, click all these, grab group 200, click all these, grab group 300, click all these. And then when I'm done clicking and I've updated all the presets, I click this, update wipes, and it just rebuilds all. I actually have keyed in every wipe in my file, which if I did this now, I probably would use a variable. I probably would have the name wipe, like dot wipe dot, and then you could actually just say store executor star, dot wipe dot. Anything that has wipe in it, it would restore this timing. So yeah. Okay, cool. So what else we got here? Uncloning when you walk into a venue, ask me that. Okay, Luke, is there a way to keep... Hey, Kyle, what's up? Is there a way to keep or import my MIDI remotes to a brand? Yes, there is. I think... I don't remember when you got your file, but I have instructions for this, and if you don't have them, I will send them to you. Basically, what you need to do, it's command line. You go into the remotes section, and you export your MIDI mapping, remote input. You export all these out, and then you just do the same command line to import it back in. If you're using command keyboard, you need to do the same thing with your keyboard shortcuts here. You need to export them as an XML file and then import them on the other file. That's included in my LPC instructions, but you might have an older version, and if you do, I will happily share that with you, Kyle. If you have not bought the LPC file, you do not get that information. That's what people pay for. Yes. Okay, what else? Jake Smoker. J with an E? Do you think LED will overtake incandescent beam fixtures as they have with washes? Not in the near future. I think that there's a potential of that happening. But, like I was at Belly Up Aspen on Sunday. Those are Elation Saturas. And there's like maybe it's a bug, but, the LEDs don't all fade at the same rate. They don't quite look the same. When I was younger, I was like, I can't wait till there's an RGB spot fixture. All I want to be able to do is like color strobe with a gobo in. That's like all I wanted. But there's something about a discharge lamp that looks just so much better and especially as my eye maybe has become more developed about LED lighting, you can see a difference. Now, your friends probably can't, but if you've been doing lighting for a while, you can tell the difference between a color like orange, an incandescent orange with a orange filter in front, color wheel, versus RGB mixed just green and red. It looks different. I remember a very actually pivotal moment for me. I was at that, what's it called? There's a San Francisco Science Museum, mostly geared towards kids, called like the Illuminate or something factory. Imaginarium factory or something like that. Whole band and I went. They were there for like maybe an hour. And I spent like all day in this lighting area where there's just all these cool like optical experiments that you could do. And they had this one where it was an LED light over here and a dial where you could mix between, it was red and green, and you can mix in yellow. And then over here was a yellow light. And this is going to be obvious to some of you and blow other of yours minds, so you, and then they met in the middle, and then there was a red filter and a green filter and a yellow filter. And depending on which one you put in, it like I'm trying to remember the exact clutch. It was like the yellow filter. Oh, man, I can't remember exactly what would happen, but you would put in the yellow filter and it would filter out yellow, but not the red and the green, or you'd put in the red filter or the green filter and all the yellow light would come through. Like, and I'm looking at it and I'm like, well, this is really cool, but I can tell looking at the two that those look different than those. Like maybe it was just a cheap LED, and if they had two diodes inside one lens, it might have looked better. But that proved to me that day that colored LEDs are really important, like having an amber or a UV or a white, most importantly, a white LED. It looks different. You cannot mix white the same, especially to someone who has an advanced eye with red, green, and blue. You can get close. Most people won't notice, but it's not the same, especially scientifically. So, like, man, what if aliens are like watching your show and they have more cones in their eye, and they're like, "What? That's not yellow." Sorry about Luke, guys. Okay. Mac 301's the epitome of LED. Yes. Nice, exactly. Okay. Can you walk through how to build those wipes? They're really easy. Really easy. And I get asked this a lot, but they seem really complicated. Maybe I can show you here. So I need some playback here. Of course, that's not going to fit. Why would I think that would fit? Come on. Just put one down here. Okay, so I do need some presets, though. We'll do red and blue. Pools. Presets. Color. Okay. So let's just go these guys here. So I'll go clear. Come on. Store group 999. Yeah, overwrite group 999. So now I'm in a world with just those lights. Okay, this is really simple. So normally if I take this guy and I say red and I say store here, and then I say same lights blue, and I store here, create second queue, red, blue, right? So if instead I say, grab these guys, I'll say green, and then I'll go over here to screen 1, and on the color, I'll click on delay. And one thing that really makes this easy when you're programming is if you just put this thing on link all, and that'll delay every attribute rather than just red or just green. But for demonstration purposes, so if someone tries to do this, they don't mess it up. I'm going to go to mix color, even though with link all I could have gone to anything, but I'm going to go to mix color, and then I'm going to say here, give it a delay time. Now, the way this is designed to be used, like out of the box, is like, oh, in Q1, put all the lights in the drummer, and then wait 5 seconds, and then snap them to blue. That's how this could work. But what we could do is fan the delay time. So if I say 0 through 1, right? And then let's see if I can get back to my screen. Man, I got too many screens open on this previs thing here. Yeah, right here. And then I'll say store, and it's the third queue. So Q1, red, blue, boom, wipes the green. Piece of cake. You can get really sophisticated with them. You could say 0 through 1 through 0, which would go bloop. And what you saw earlier in my file is that my rebuild wipe thing, not these presets. These, if you just write this little macro, you can rebuild. This is actually rebuilding a preset. You can rebuild. I use 0.5 instead of 1, but you can rebuild these effects or these presets. See, they're all right here, and these are just the whole rig delayed. Piece of cake. And then if you want to like build anything as a wipe, you just and then click that and store it. I even have a macro that does that live. Where is that? Let's say screen 4. Anybody confused out there? I'm sure every time we get nerdy, we lose like half the people. So where am I trying to go? Yeah, right here. Okay, so like these 3 macros, these will actually take any queue. The next button that I press, it will rebuild it as a wipe. So check this out. I'll leave this up on the screen a bit so you guys can oogle and ogle. Basically, it blind edit rebuilds a queue and then runs it. And there's some junk in there that maybe you probably wouldn't need in your file, but basically click this, click anything else, it rebuilds it as a wipe. And it uses a preset that already has wipe timing for the rig, which I rebuild every day. So hopefully that helps. Can you walk? Okay, do you use the new bitmap engine much? And if so, what have you found to be the best settings for bouncing? I don't use it at all, but I don't really have a rig at my disposal that requires using a bitmap engine. I have 8 LEDs, and my points don't even color mix, so using a bitmap engine is kind of silly in that scenario. I've heard it's great. I can't speak for it specifically out of my own use. I'm sure this year I'll end up using it, but you kind of need a light or a rig that has a few more pixels than 8 to be using a bitmap. Cool, thanks. Yeah, man, aliens. Any more questions out there? This has been fun. Hopefully this thing grows. I don't know how often I'll do it. I get a little moody, so I'm not always in the mood to like hop on the internet and talk to nobody, hoping that people are paying attention. Second question, Ben. Ben, are you still out with Spafford and Munyon? Put that in the chat so I can tell people who you are. And who else we got? Kyle from Burlington, Higher Ground, and Ryan. Ryan, who are you out with these days? Anyway, Ben, Spafford, yeah. Second question, would you mind talking about your LED Leco queue to make downstage fixtures act like spotlights? Yeah, it's really simple. Number one, you got an LED and it's focused well. Build a white preset. Ryan, man, get a gig. You got it, man. Build a white preset that looks great. And I don't mean everything at 100%. I'm talking about like a nice, maybe not CTO, but it's got to be warm enough. Think about all the theater shows you've seen. I have an idea for this, which I'll get to after I explain this. You see, build the white preset here. We'll just use my white here for white, right? Then you pick the light. You say white, and you say either full, or you can come over to your dimmer if you have a dimmer, 100% dimmer. So it's white and dimmer all the way up, and you store that onto a fader. And then the real only little trick here, let's see if I can show you on my screen 4, like these guys right here. This is from Motet. Assign. It just needs to be a temp fader. And the reason that's important is because if you don't have it a temp fader, only dimmer values will fade as you put the fader up. If you have it as a temp fader, all the values will fade. So if it was a position, as the fader goes up, the position would go like this. In this case, it'll go from whatever color it's in to white. So like if you're in blue and you bring the fader up, it'll go from blue to white when the fader's up and all the way down. Really great way to use LEDs as specials, as we often call them. Now, I have another thing here. I'm getting really into this, like, rewriting presets during the show. So what you could do is you could make a preset called special, and then you could use that to store all your cues. And then in your looks, like let's say you've got a warm look, and in the warm look you want the specials to be like a warm CTO orangey color. You could have a command line that copies the CTO preset and overwrites the special preset. Then on your cool looks, like let's say you're in like a blue, green, magenta, purple look, you don't want it to be like, sometimes those don't gel. Like maybe you want it to just be pure white, or you want it to be a little bluer white. You could have a command line run that when you run the cool look, it overwrites we'll call it CTB or cool white preset and stores it into the special preset. How about that? That's pretty cool. Cool trick. I started doing that with see if I can show you on screen 2 here. This right here. This actually overwrites my max gobo rotation preset. So I can either click one button and all the gobos rotate one way, or click another button and they all mirror each other, or another one and it's like split down the middle. and all it's doing is rewriting one preset to the preset that I actually use down on the fader. So that's kind of cool. Oh, yeah, no, that works too. A relative effect with RGB, and except my suggestion to you is that you use a preset rather than just RGBW. Go in there and reference a specials preset. And that way, each day when you do your clone, you can say like, "Oh, today the LEDs look a little pink, and I need to bring out some of that red." Or often they'll be too blue, and you need to pull the blue back. Make sense? Andrew, I don't know what you mean by plus spot lamps are usually spottier, which helps. Yeah, what else did I have? I think I had a question from somebody on. Oh no, it got asked. Cool. Well, anything else before we wind down? Talked a little bit about MA. Talked about plans for LPC. Like I said, check out the Discord channel if you want to chat with other people. I don't use it as a sales tool. I try not to be as salesy as I can, although you can't help it sometimes. I gotta put food in the fridge, man. The podcast, definitely lots of episodes coming this year. Director's commentary, definitely more of those coming. Kyle, I'm gonna try to, man. If the reception goes well, if people like this, I will try to do it as I gotta give a shout out to Crypto Bobby. I don't know if any of you are in the crypto game, but he does. He's got a bajillion followers. I see his live streams, and I was like, man, you know what? And also Christian Jackson, of course. I was like, man, you should go live. It's fun. It's like hanging out, Okay, what more questions? I like it. Ryan, any tidbits advice on contracts? Ryan, can you clarify? Do you mean like in the actual contract with the client? Because I don't really do a lot of that. I have rental contracts, but maybe if you can clarify, I will answer that question. Do you have the board with you? Which board? The answer is no, but my console is in a truck right now. We don't have any command keyboards because we keep selling them, so it's a good problem to have, but they keep getting shipped all over the world, literally, so I don't have it. I was going to show one on the stream. I mean, I could show you a picture, but you can go to the website. How do you organize and play back your positions? Okay, so if you're on an LPC, middle APC, or if you're on a full-size screen 3, 1, 2, 3, middle one, looks like this. Everything that's red is related to position. So actually, I'm glad you asked that, Josh, because this is actually kind of made a breakthrough this year that I want to share with the community. All of these are double stacked. Well, first off, you'll notice there's a filter. This little orange thing means there's a filter. They're all filtered to the active world. I build a world every day that's just the lights that I have. And that's kind of more of a bug fix from in the past. There were some problems with cues turning off randomly. But it also helps me know that I've done all my programming. Each one of these is double stacked. And with the exception of these three, all of these have two. So if I hit it twice, it'll go somewhere new. If, like, for example, I was in low fan and I hit it again and I don't think about what I'm doing, I want to go to cross fan, which is like, this is low fan, this is cross fan. But I also added Q2 to these basic down, blind, which is audience blinded, up, because I have this Q2 button. So because I'm always paying attention to how lights move, I don't, if I double tap it, you'll see it kind of go like, if you're down and you click the out in button, if you click it once, it goes to out, and then again, it goes to in. But if you click it twice, it'll go like this. It won't just go straight to in. So I have this Q2, which just go to Q2 at whatever I click next, it goes to Q2. So I can click this and click one of these, and it'll go. Here, let me do it. Go, boom. See how it went to Q2? Boom, boom. And I just have it twice so that if it's on a touch screen, there's 2 places my finger can go. So yeah, I've got down, blind, up. These are all creative. Fan, Triple X, Halo, Teeth, Psych are all in the back wall. This is where I get my like disco ball, real like kind of Sharpie beam looks. These are actually specific band looks, which I've been using more and more. These are locks for my wash lights, so I can lock them on the band, or I can lock them on the back wall, or I can lock them on the well, those are the 2. And this locks my downstage lights, which is usually on all night. But if I'm on like a big rig and I've got a bunch of programming time, I'll build my downstage wash lights into all the positions, and then I can unlock them and do a big fade up once or twice a night. Usually I just leave that on. Then this right here, I'm not going to go into that. It's basically the same thing in 4 spots where I can pick a position, but it follows my tap timing instead of my fader timing. So it's just assigned to a different fade rate. But the cool thing I have this year is that here on I got to get to the right screen. Here's my normal view. Here on Pan Tilt World, these are all my positions, but copied spot, beam, and wash. Those are just labels with a different world filter. So I can, especially in slower parts of the show, I can come over to here and be like, hey, I want all the lights. Like this weekend, I did all the wash lights on Lyle, but then do a big fan with all the spots and beams. This is just a world filter. So assign world filter. And it works great, especially on a bigger rig. You can be like, hey, fade everything, these lights to out, but keep these on the band. Okay, now take these lights up. It's really dynamic. And the one further thing for positions I have is this stuff down here. This is that same wipe build, but it'll wipe build a position with slow timing. So I call them blooming. This stuff here, blooming. So I can, rather than going like this, I can go like this. And if you mix them together, you get it looks like there's pan tilt effects running, way sexier than just, that kind of thing. Okay, I hope that helped, Josh. Dan Rio, would you ever rig half your rig backwards like fish? I don't know what fish rig you're talking about. Every fish rig I can think of is none of it. Oh, do you mean the like way the lights are hung? Because I do that. If you're asking if I hang, I guess if you could clarify, that'd help. If you're talking about how fish rigs every other light backwards so that the lights scroll different, I do that on my ground package. My ground package, the displays face backwards compared to the hung package, which face forward, so that my gobo scrolls all go the same direction. I'm not sure if that answered your question or not. Thanks for doing this and answering questions tonight. Please do more. I will try. Thank you so much help. Great. Thanks. Guys, thanks for listening. This is awesome. David H must not know me very well because my favorite console is definitely the grandMA. I think if you want to get really into specifics, my favorite combination would be having a full-size grandMA2 with one of my LPCs with all brand new hardware for operating the show. So I'd program the show on the full size and then use it as a backup, keep it to the side, and then have all my buttons. But I'm pretty sure that answer will soon be grandMA3. I can't say that yet, though. Establish relationships with new vendors. I don't really deal with vendors a lot. If you're talking about clients like bands or people who might hire you, I don't know, man. I don't really have a lot of good advice there. I don't have a ton of experience bidding out new clients. Most of the clients I work with kind of already know me, and most of the work I do is is not contract work. If it's a rental, there'll be a contract, but most of it is like, hey, here's the rate. Cool. Here's my invoice. If you don't pay me, I'm not coming next week. That's pretty much it. Must have clauses in your... Yeah, I don't have a contract. I'm not saying don't have one, and a lot of bigger artists I'm sure do. I've been very fortunate to work with the same band most of my career as a partner. And every band I've worked with besides Dopapod has been pretty cool so far. So, what did your... the pricing page for MA3. I unfortunately was informed that it is not for the public yet, as it's not finalized, which I don't think even my rep knew when he sent me the pricing. So I will put it up as soon as it is publicly available. It's not finalized. So any if you saw any before, you can't count on it. We're not taking pre-orders yet. That's about it. This stream will be posted afterwards. Yes. Jay, it's pretty much impossible to start with pro fixtures and GMA when you're live very remote and small. Oh, of course. I'm slowly moving up from China. Yeah, I mean, you got to do what you got to do. I'm not saying, hey, it's either China lights or don't work. But when you become a purchaser, and you will become a purchaser in your career, for a venue that's hired you, or a theater, or an artist, or even as what does the rental company want? Or what do you want from the rental company? They're going to go buy it. You will be a purchaser, someone in your life. Do not support Chinese fixtures, please. SLS custom keyboard. Yeah, we talked about that earlier. I think maybe you weren't here. I am working on a keyboard for MA3. It won't be available for pre-order. We're going to do a pre-order again. It won't be available until I've tested it, so it'll be at least once the software comes out. But yeah, that's definitely happening, of course. Fair enough, yes. And yeah, I didn't know about the Christian stream until the next day, or maybe later in the day. I got an email from my rep that was like, "Hey, I shouldn't be talking about this. It's normal business stuff. There was a miscommunication. It's not online for the time being. It will be back." That's all I have to say. Ooh, what are my favorite fixtures? Kind of talked about that earlier. The QWO Alpha Spot 800 is my favorite spot fixture of all time. I wish there was an updated version of it. 55-degree cone gobo. Man, that's amazing. Ruby Point, amazing. I'm sure the Mega Point is going to blow people's minds when we get to get our hands on it for sure. Those are the two that stick out. The X4S, I talked about that earlier. GLP X4S, it's a great fixture. What else? There's a lot. I mean, the Mac Viper, the Mac 3, Todd, what's up, my man? How's your console working out? What do I need to get fan of lighting in? Oh, you just got to tell me and I'll make you. Just shoot me a message in there so I know your username and I'll make you a fan of lighting design. He's talking about the Discord chat room. There is a fan of lighting design tag that puts you in a special group just so you're identified as a more fan of lighting. Although, given your username, sound, and light sorcery, I suspect that you're probably in the industry, and that's more for fans. Besides Chinese, which widely available fixtures do you avoid? Maybe if you could be more specific. If you're talking about what I would buy, I only buy the higher end of the range. Not that I'm buying a lot of fixtures, but I like resale value and I like supporting strong engineering. Those are kind of core values outside of lighting for me. So the higher end products are what I would support from a purchasing standpoint. Claypaky, Roby, Martin, GLP is now definitely one of those contenders. As far as avoiding, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't. Like I said, I maybe would have said Chauvet and Elation a couple years ago, but those guys have really done a great job with their stuff. So, do I know if Corona and GIF are using the GLP X4 XL up in the ceiling? I don't know that specific answer. I have suspected the extra lighting for New Year's was, well, I don't know. I was going to say that it was just coming from the venue. Maybe MSG often will upgrade their rig, but I would be surprised if they put some extra stuff up there. I wouldn't surprise me. He had the X4S out on that. If you remember the 101 rig with the 101 towers, he got rid of those for X4Ss at the end of that rig's life, which I thought was an awesome move. Wait, how do you get on the fans of lighting tag again? Was putting my headphone. Oh, you have to just send me a message and I'll make you one. But like I said, oh, Kyle, so you're a different person. if you're in the industry, well, it's whatever you want. If you want that tag, it's just go. I'll make you one. But it's for there are guys like Jeff and Jesse Van Dellen. What's up, Llama Mall guys? I love you guys. Miss you. They're not in the industry. They don't work in lighting. They're just hardcore music fans and lighting fans. They pay. They know that. Especially Jesse knows lighting fixtures. He's paying attention when designers get new rigs and he wants to know what's in them. But he's not trying to be an LD, for example. So that's really a tag for those kinds of people. But I'm happily add you to a fans of lighting if you want. Oh yeah, I mean, I hate old shit. It's old stuff is not gelling for me. And I don't, mostly just because of how far lighting has come. Even since I've been a guy, I've been in the game 7 or 8 years. Man, lighting is just like, it can do so much more quicker, more reliable, better optics. You get some old, Mac Kryptons and stuff. They just don't look as good. American DJ, my first lighting software was my DMX, and I'm here. So, they're owned by Elation. It's just the cheaper brand. I've used plenty of ADJ stuff. On Thievery Tour, the ground lights we had lighting up the band, ADJ. I was like, really? We're going to take ADJ? And they worked great. I mean, you just put them on the guy all night, and it's RGBW. It's like, there's not a lot they can mess up there. It's just cheaper, I think the BIs above the ceiling for the New Year's I didn't notice BIs above the ceiling, but if that's maybe a term you're using to refer to... I wasn't there for New Year's. It's just the photos I saw, they were just using them like normal wash fixtures, so... But yeah, I would not be surprised. I mean, GIF and Kuroda are the house designers and programmers for the MSG rig, so I wouldn't be surprised if those got added to the rig and they were just like, we're going to use them, They weren't K20s, but they could. Okay, yeah. Yeah, I didn't see any pixelation in the photos that I saw, and I didn't see any flower effect. Ooh, how did I get my start in the industry? That's a long story. Chief, I don't know. If they were K20s, that could vary. I find it hard to believe that MSG would put K20s in the ceiling of MSG this far into their life cycle. But that could be. I don't have direct information about that. Sorry, I meant arc lamps are usually spottier in comparison to LEDs. Yeah, do you mean like they're better for use as spotlights, or that they have a hot spot in their output? Because you could say maybe both are true. I just lit a band a few weeks back with Techno Beams, Parkans. It was a blast. They were 100% were not K20s, but they were super fast. Yeah, like I said, I would be surprised if they put K20s up there. Okay, how did I get started in the industry? I went, I don't know how long the answer I want to give here. I'll give you the abridged one. I wanted to be in Fish. I decided after touring with Fish in 03 and 04 that I wanted to go to music school for guitar. And I went to Berklee College of Music. And after that, I started a band called Mondo Gecko. And we were pretty good. I think, for how bad I was before we started, before I went to Berklee, I think we were pretty good. But it didn't really work out. I think the guys in the band saw things differently. And I reached out to Dopapod, who also went to Berklee, who I had I had a class with Eli, and we had played some gigs together. And I was like, hey, you got, I could DJ too. I could like scratch sometimes and play guitar sometimes. Like, you guys you guys are on the same tip that I'm trying to get on. And they were all set, which I'm glad they did, because I wouldn't be here otherwise. But they were all set musically, but they needed help. And I had this audio board that we had bought from Mondo Gecko, that I had bought that we wasn't using anymore. So I came out and mixed a couple of shows for him. And after a while, he was like, man, we had this light rig in our basement, And it was like 7 scanners that they had bought on Craigslist. Terrible lights. They were, what were they called? Geni Shivas, Geni. And they didn't even have a dimmer. They didn't even have a shutter. They just had to strobe. It was like closed, open, gobo, 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 gobo. So to strobe, it would go closed, open, closed, open. So I had to like write a thing. I can't even believe I used them for as long as I did. But I basically wrote a bunch of cues in my DMX and put them on a keyboard and I would click different keys for different scenes, and after a while I kind of rather than it just being different scenes, I got to know the music really well, and before you knew it, I was an MA guy. I bought MA. I bought a Node, and I spent 2 months in the basement figuring it out. And then I worked with the same band for 7 years. And now people know who I am. I mean, that I just got lucky. I think that's what happens to a lot of guys. You just end up with an artist, and then your career develops with the artist. So I would, that's a great route. There are plenty of routes to do it, but that seems to be one that works pretty well, is just find an artist that's up and coming and stick with them until they're doing well. I just assumed there would be K20s and went with that. Good to know. I'll be curious as to what fixtures they actually were. Yeah, this is one of those things where it's like, yeah, well, I'm curious too. I want to know what they are, but does it really matter if you were going to spec that rig out? By the time you're there doing that gig, it's going to be a different fixture. So don't worry about it too much, Yeah, around the scoreboards, we're both talking about the same thing. I'm based in Denver, Colorado. Maybe that second Corrado podcast. No, don't be counting on that, because this is trying to be a long-standing development show. All right, I'm trying to have journalistic merit and not just interview the same jam band LDs over and over, because I could do that. Those guys love talking about it. New Year's Eve, as MSG did have BIK20s and sphere scans, they were part of the show, Rick. Yes. Yeah, no, I know they have BIs. We're not saying that there aren't BIs. We're talking about the ones. Oh, yeah, then you say about the scoreboard. Sorry, the chat I'm bouncing around. Hi, is there a way to receive video from Resolume Arena into grandMA2 and send them to Pixel Map to your fixtures? Okay, so I don't do a lot of video. If I did, I'd use Resolume, but I've heard that the CITP viewer in grandMA2, which is how you get video clips into the console, is not supported by Resolume, as last I heard. Now, please, if this has been changed, tell me. That'd be great news. I don't believe that Resolume sends CITP information to MA. That being said, I'm sure there's a way to hack it to do what you're talking about. I don't know how to do it, though, unfortunately. That is beyond the realm of my expertise. Well, I mean, Chief, let's be honest. Most lighting discussion that isn't somehow involved in my sphere is in some way related to fish. That's just kind of the circle we run in. I don't think I've had a guest on the podcast yet who didn't mention Kuroda. I'm trying to think. I think they all did. It's just kind of a product of like this kind of lighting, and them being really good and appreciating lighting, and him being really good and at the right place. You would need a VPU. Yeah, now I suppose that you could probably feed Resolume into a VPU and then have the VPU send CITP information into MA. That would probably work. Or pixel mapping information. You can actually add a video screen in MA now. But like I said, guys, I am not a video expert. Maybe I will be in the future, but my personal design style does not have a lot of video in it, nor have I worked with an artist who feels that same way. So maybe down the road I'll know more about video and I can answer your questions. Cool. Well, it seems like I may be caught to the end of the chat. Unless there are any more pressing questions, I think we shall call it a night, an evening, gentlemen. Good hanging. Oh, Dave, what up, my man? Have you been here the whole time? I gave you a shout out earlier. But yeah, cheers to all you YouTubers out there. Oh, please like and subscribe and share and all that stuff. You'd think it's like why do guys always say that? But like the subscriptions, they make a difference. They like actually, you'll get like looped, whatever. You guys get it. I'm not going to go into the details. But all right. Yeah. If you've got any more questions, please hit me up on Twitter, Luke_Stratton. You can email me at lukestrattondesigns.com or lukestrattondesigns@gmail. Check out my website at lukestrattondesigns.com. This is a podcast. There's the Discord. I think that's about it. I will see you guys on the internets. Au revoir.